Okay. All right, y'all. So that video or series of videos was pretty awesome. I thought it was long, but I guess it had a lot of information to cover. But I really liked it. It was humbling. It was a little uncomfortable at times, and it was very interesting. What did you guys think?
I think it was very powerful just seeing how the kids felt when they were discriminated against, and then seeing how they acted when they were being the person who discriminates. I think something like that would have stayed with me for a long time if that had happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did kind of find myself wondering about the ethics of the experiment as far as, do you guys know about the conditioning experiment that Pavlov did? No. It wasn't conditioning. It was with the child and the rat, right? And causing fear and okay.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, I was wondering more about the ethics behind it and whether it was what outcome it would have on the children. But I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was really neat to see them years later and hear their perspective on how it had changed them and all that. But just a question that popped into my head as I was watching it.
I remember at the end, I think when they were interviewing Miss Elliott, the lady that did it, did the whole experiment, she said something like, if this got in the wrong hands or if it was used by someone who wasn't educated on the process, that it could potentially hurt a child. And I can totally see that too, because my husband watched it with me and he was like, ew, that was a little harsh, and you could tell some of these kids were like, I feel like, are these kids being damaged? It was a little harsh in some spots.
I think that shows the ethics were, way different back then, and a lot of the ethical guidelines weren't necessarily in place yet. But around that time is when the Stanford prison experiment and stuff like that were done, and, ethics had to be majorly changed. But I still think overall it was a really awesome experiment, and I think that the way it impacted the kids for their futures was great. They talked about how they teach their kids now, 20 years later or whatever, not to discriminate against someone or to judge them by the color of their skin, but by what's inside and stuff like that. So the fact that it really stuck with them, and it didn't seem to have a harmful impact that I noticed. So that's good. But yeah, you guys are totally right. It's always kind of a crapshoot of, what'll happen with it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I thought it was interesting too, like the difference of how when they did the experiment with adults versus kids, and they both expressed defiance, but it's just interesting how they expressed it differently, and it was pretty fascinating. And then I thought it was also interesting how she talked about it's kind of a micro society in the sense that in society, sometimes you stand up for other people and other times you don't stand up for them based on, I don't know, fear of if, you're going to get yelled at to or in trouble. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
Like fear of retribution.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Looking at the developmental theories and everything, or cultural identity theories, the ones that we're talking about, how the developmental model suggests that they go in stages, like a person's cultural identity goes and passes stages over their lifetime. And in the videos, the kids started off with like never experiencing any oppression or discrimination in their lives, and then they were exposed to that and exposed to all these injustices with the experiment, and then they changed their views on people who were different from them, and it's kind of like a light bulb went off in a sense, and after they experienced it themselves. And then with the adults, when the adults did the same experience with the prison system employees, once they saw and experienced what the minorities were experiencing, then they understood, and their understanding increased, and it was just a whole nother world for everybody once they had experienced it themselves and they moved through those stages like they talk about in that part of the textbook.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how both the groups, the children and the adults, went through those stages. It was, I guess I kind of expected the adults who were being discriminated against to maybe speak up more or stand up for themselves. I don't know why. I guess that was kind of a thought I had going into it. But it was interesting that they both went through those stages.
I wonder.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, you go ahead, Sarah.
I wonder if the amount of time they had to wait caused them maybe not to respond as fast because they already felt maybe unimportant because they weren't in the room with everyone else.
Yeah.
I wonder how that affected them.
That's true.
Y'all don't remember any sort of, where they talked about anything, I guess, of any type of religion, scripture, or anything? It just really, it's, you treat others the way you want to be treated. I mean, that's kind of the main thing I got out of it as far as what you would tie to really a biblical standpoint. Would y'all agree?
Yeah, and I wonder too if this experiment had been done like in the Bible Belt where I'm at, in the Deep South, what the outcome would have been, how different would it have been had it been scripturally, had they used scripture in the experiment, especially back then. But I think we're running out of time, guys. Anything else real quick?
Yeah, I've got one Bible verse
Yeah.
that I found. It's Acts 10, verses 34 and 35. Then Peter began to speak. I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism, but accepts from every nation the one who fears him and does what is right.
That's spot on. Awesome. All right, guys. Good work.